after the Senate passed its version over the weekend. Nearly 160 million households are expected to get the cash payment, according to White House estimates. Getting payments out to Americans who regularly file tax returns will be the easy part. It will be challenging, however, to get money to other groups who are eligible to receive checks this time around, including the incarcerated, those with non-citizen spouses, and relatives of those who died in 2020.
Top economists are debating on whether another round of stimulus would even help Americans cope with inflation. In my opinion, it definitely will help so many people. We know that's the facts. But many Democrats are in support of a fourth round of stimulus money, and the relief is going to come in the form of either a one-time deposit or a paper check in your mailbox. Because after a booming recovery, America emerged from the lockdown of the crisis. The economy right now is in a crossroads, and massive stimulus packages passed by Congress have actually helped keep the United States out of a deep recession. But according to economists, the influx of capital to businesses and individuals also helped prop up the inflation rate. The dilemma policymakers now face is whether pulling additional money into the pockets of Americans is going to drive inflation even higher than it is today, or will allow them to better cope with the rising cost. Although the amount cannot be debated, economists insist that there is no doubt that the inflation, $5 trillion released into the American Rescue Plan economy during the crisis had at least some positive impacts and caused rising inflation as well. JP Morgan Chase had already reported that the bank balances in the United States has soared as stimulus payments are being distributed, and they still remain higher than the pre-crisis levels. The clearest argument for additional stimulus money comes from actual data recorded by the USDA. It found that the government action during the heart of the crisis kept 1 million people out of poverty. And the most impactful programs for alleviating poverty were economic impact checks under the American Rescue Plan and unemployment benefits increase. So for instance, a senior researcher fellow at the Tax Policy Center told reporters that another federal stimulus check could really help people out and help people cope with inflation, particularly those with lower income. And according to sources, these types of households tend to have less money in savings, so delivering some sort of cash benefit right now will protect a lot of people from the inflation that's happening around them. The former presidential candidate Andrew Yang even said that the stimulus packages have gotten too much of the blame for inflation. Yang told NBC News that money in people's hands for a couple of months last year was a very, very minor factor, and that most of the money has long since been spent, and you continue to see inflation rise. Yang has long been a proponent of universal basic income, and he feels that additional direct payments to Americans will keep the economy stable during future crises and keep more Americans out of poverty. Many states have even taken this into their own hands. For example, California and the state legislatures have proposed $400 checks for residents who drive cars, while the Georgia governor has also signed into law a $250 stimulus check to every single person that has a car. And other state legislatures, including Illinois, New Jersey, and Idaho, are considering various proposals. State stimulus packages are of small enough scope that they likely won't even push up inflation by any additional amount, whereas the federal government has spent trillions of dollars over numerous stimulus rounds, ultimately providing most Americans with $3,200 or more, and state stimulus amounts are typically limited to $500 or even less. So as you can see, people need stimulus money right away, with many people focused solely on lower income taxpayers. These smaller targeted amounts may actually help Americans cope with inflation without even driving it any higher. And that's because of one thing. The Hawaii legislature approved a tax rebate earlier this year. It provides $300 to residents who earn less than $100,000 in 2021. And those who earned more than $100,000 will receive a one-time payout of $100. The Department of Taxation has said that the payments could begin processing in late August, with most payments to be sent out by the end of the year. And also, Maine taxpayers who filed a 2021 tax return have an adjusted gross income of less than $100,000. And that's $150,000 if you're filing as a head of household. So be sure to receive the stimulus money that you're entitled to, because stimulus checks, everybody, have officially been sent out. So you want to be sure to claim it before anything gets out.
We protect the financial security. The Congress remains hard at work until late at night, last night, starting early this morning, on the omnibus funding package. It's about taking us into the future. Passing an omnibus is our strong preference. Our leader in the House on this, of the House Democrats, is Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro. You've heard me say again and again, as an appropriator myself, left to their own devices, the Republicans and Democrats, in a bipartisan way, on the Appropriations Committee, can reach a solution. And we should let them do that. But sadly, we have no choice if they can't, that we would have to have a year-long CR. We don't like that, but if we can't have a solution, we have no choice but to keep government open with a year-long CR. We've made that very clear in the White House meeting the other day and in our conversations with our colleagues on the subject. It would be a last resort because, as you know, it would have a direct impact on so many.
Face a steep excise tax on the sale of their products until they come to the table. If they're price gouging, if they're raising their prices above the rate of inflation, say for an older drug, they're going to pay a penalty. And then we have new significant relief for seniors who, when they get mugged at the pharmacy counter, come home and say they just can't pay all the bills. And our legislation puts a new $2,000 out-of-pocket cap on Medicare Part D so that seniors are no longer forced to choose between paying for medicine.
During a roundtable with Elizabeth Warren and union leaders, Schumer said there was a false narrative about who student debt cancellation would benefit. Schumer stated, "Let's dispel one awful myth right here. That is not a problem that concerns the wealthy or the Ivy League. It's affecting working class people." Schumer also appeared to be speaking directly to Biden, who has repeatedly framed canceling student debt as a handout to the well-off. Schumer and lawmakers have made it clear that they will continue to push for student debt cancellation, and the Biden administration is grappling with the fact that the idea of student debt forgiveness infuriates many Americans, including those who never borrowed for their education or went to college. Taxes on employees making more than $400,000. The bill has gained some support, but is so far stalled in Congress. A big update, everybody. For Social Security and stimulus checks, eligible people can start applying today for additional stimulus assistance, and there are several programs that have been created that are aimed to providing financial help to Americans during this time. Today, people in Connecticut were able to start applying for a tax rebate just for families. The rebate, which was created as part of the budget bill that the governor signed into law last month, provides taxpayers with a state tax rebate of up to $250 per child for a maximum of 3 children. Any Connecticut resident who claimed at least one dependent, 18 or younger, on their 2021 tax return may be eligible as well. And while not everyone was qualified to receive the rebate, the Department of Revenue Services estimated more than 300,000 households can meet eligibility. Those applicants may see the extra money relatively soon. The filer status income threshold is single to married filing separately $100,000 or less and head of households. The rebate is for middle-class families. However, those who have higher income rates may be eligible to receive a reduced rebate based on their income. The period to apply began this week and ends on July 31st. The Department of Revenue Services said eligible families should start to receive their rebates in late August, right before the start of the new school year. The rebate came as the Biden administration pushed inflation as a top priority. It recently announced proposals aimed at boosting the U.S. economy. However,